Hi, I'm Patricia Greenberg. When book lover, aspiring author, and full-time mom Zibby Owens started her podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, she had no idea it would lead to what the LA Times called the Zibbyverse. A daily podcast, several books, a publishing company, and a bookstore are all part of this mom's daily existence. Welcome, Zibby.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I sought you out because I was so impressed how you took a seemingly overwhelming situation, which is being a mom. You have four children. It's astounding to me how you do anything because I know what that's like. And you turned it into this wonderful community of followers, and it's flourishing. Tell us how you got here.
Oh, I wish I knew.
Mm.
It's just been one day, one thing after another, and never stopping. That's basically how we got here.
Yeah.
Um, the slightly longer answer is I started a podcast in 2018 called Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. I did so when I got back into reading and writing post-divorce. I had stayed home with my four kids for 11 years and had previously tried to publish novels, had written since I was 14 and had ghostwritten a book and just missed it and have always been a huge, huge reader and started the podcast because I didn't have a platform. Someone suggested it would be a good idea if I wanted to sell a book. And I ended up just falling in love with interviewing, which I had never really done before. I had done some reporting for different magazines and things like that, but never like sitting down for 30-minute conversations, especially with authors who I picked based on how much I like their books. So it was a dream for me. I mean, I think authors are total rock stars. Like this is more exciting to me than if I had a steady stream of celebrities. Although I have now interviewed a lot of celebrities, but still, it's been the most fun, and the community has come from that and my desire to grow all of that, and how one thing led to another. But I did 3 podcasts already today, and I
Wow.
love it. But it's sort of relentless hard work and preparation and openness, authenticity, telling it like it is, not being afraid to share, and then people aren't afraid to share with me.
And that's, the premise really of what I do is I talk about aging well. And it's like the older you get, the less, you care more about certain things, but you care less about what people think or of you and what you're doing. And you realize, I always say, you start to realize you have less time ahead than you had behind you, and you can just open yourself up. And it's a wonderful way to live. It's a lot more relaxing, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot more relaxing.
Yeah. Zibby, hearing your story reminds me, again, that it's never too late to change your life and go after what you want. It may not be what you envisioned, but it's possible. So where does one start in the middle of overwhelm?
Well, start small. I mean, I could never have tried to start a community of book lovers. I mean, that sounds great, but where would I know how to do that? I mean, I went to business school, but that's not something they teach.
Right.
So I think starting as small as possible. The first thing I did was Google how to start a podcast. And then one of the second things I did was Google easiest podcast recording ever. And then I ordered a microphone. I mean, these are small steps. I didn't try to conquer the world. So and being prepared for every little thing. So I think if you're interested in something and you want to test it out, try a low barrier to entry way. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not like building a house. I'm not an architect, right? It's very low cost just to get up there and start podcasting. So I would say try little things, take a class, try to find the industry you're interested in, go to events, meet other people. Most of the success or press or all opportunities that I've had have come from authors who I've had on the podcast. They've changed my life in so many ways, not just their books, which already had changed my life, but all the introductions and ideas and inspiration. So I never would have had any of that if I hadn't thought to just ask a million questions and get to know people and indulge my curiosity, which sort of runs on autopilot.
Yeah. Now, you're a novelist, blank, which I'm reading right now, which is great, by the way, because I didn't have time to finish before I got to you, but I will let you know that so far I love it.
Thank
You're a
you.
memoirist, bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature. And you've written a children's book called Princess Charming. Now, did writing these books come naturally to you? In other words, you've always been interested in reading and writing. So was it easy for you to write the books? I don't mean from the logistic, I mean from the heart.
It was easy once I got into it. I got a little intimidated sometimes by the fact, because for both of those books, I had sold them on proposal to my publisher. Um, so when I was writing them, I knew there would eventually be an audience. That said, I had written like a zillion things that have not sold. So the writing itself comes naturally. I love to write, although I've been reminding myself that I love to write because now I'm approaching another deadline and find myself not writing. So I'm
Mm.
like, you're supposed to love writing so much. Sit down and do it. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy it. And once I get into it, and I can't stop.
And do you have a zone or a time of day? I mean, you have kids. Do the kids give you the room to work? Do you say, leave me alone for 2 hours? How do you really? I'd
Okay,
love
so
to hear
let
a
me
little bit.
set the scene. Let me set the
Yeah.
scene with the kids, which
Yeah.
is my older two kids go to boarding school, although
Okay.
now they're home for the summer.
Uh-huh.
But so they've been away. I mean, still lots of stuff all the
Sure,
time.
of course, of course.
But they're not physically here during the school year as much. My younger kids are 9 and almost 11,
Mm.
and pretty independent as far as kids go. And I'm divorced and remarried. So they go to my ex-husband's every other weekend for a long
Okay.
weekend.
Hmm.
So it's not like I have 4 kids under the ages. I mean, I was literally at a party for my son the other night, and there were all these other families there. And this one woman and I was like, "Oh, is this your kid too?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I have 2 other ones in between." I was like, "What?" Like, so then I started talking to this other family, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, she has 4 kids." And I was like, "That's crazy." And I was like, "Wait a minute, I have 4 kids."
Yeah.
So my 4 kids don't feel like that because and there's also a lot of age spread out between
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't even know if
You
I
don't have
answered
to
your
ask their
question.
permission to work like a lot of other parents have to do. Yeah.
I don't have to ask their permission to work. I mean, that said, I did start all of this about 6 years ago, so it was a little different. Just yesterday, they co-hosted a podcast with me of an author they wanted to talk to, so I involved them in everything. Um, no, they know. And the little ones, this is how they grew up. Like they know they grew up with me doing this all the time. The big kids, are really invested and find this whole thing really exciting because I was home
Mhm.
with them. So they've watched me, you know, go from stay-at-home mom who wasn't on social media to, having a following and, just starting a publishing house and owning a bookstore and all these dreams of mine. So it's been really exciting.
Now, if you don't mind my asking, you're a publisher, Zibby Books, and the indie bookstore owner, Zibby's Bookstore, which is I'm in Los Angeles. It's here in beautiful Santa Monica. Why did you choose to open the book in Santa Monica, the bookstore in Santa Monica?
So I love LA. I lived there after college for a couple years, and my brother lives there with his kids. I still have tons of friends there. And when I got together with Kyle, who's now my husband, he had never been to LA, and we went together to visit my brother, and he like fell in love with it. And I was like, "Oh, let me show you around. I used to live here, blah blah blah." And he grew up in Florida and just like loved it. So we kind of made it our happy place. And when we didn't have the kids and we were sort of rebuilding friend groups post divorce and all of that, we carved out a new space for us there. And so to me, it's like a happy place and a symbol of sort of starting over and finding my voice and all the good things. And so the reason I even opened it, and I did look first in New York, but the rent here is just so crazy. And
Mhm.
I don't know, we don't need another bookstore in New York. We just don't. And there was no bookstore in Santa Monica. And it just feels like more welcome, more accomplishable, even though I live here.
Yeah.
I have a great team there now. And I feel like if it was part of my daily life, it would be stressful if I had to like run to the store every day. But because it's in LA, I go and then for like 4 days in a row, I can just like hang out on the couch in the store. And it's so relaxing and escapist and it's all fun. I mean, it's a business, but this whole thing is so fun.
Yeah.
So
I'm
for
so
me, it's
thrilled to
like,
hear that. Yeah.
it's like going on vacation.
It's wonderful. I read in your bio this line that I love. I learned after many losses, if not now, when. So, do you have an urgency to accomplish a certain amount by a certain age? Or because it sounds to me like you have just really, I know nobody figures it out 100%, but it's so wonderful to hear that you're doing what you love and you're doing what you want to be doing now. And so many people are striving for that, even at older ages, because the focus of the show is aging well. And we're seeing an explosion of authors over 50 and even over
Yes.
60 coming out. What do you say? And these women, I belong to so many writing groups. I've written 5 books. I've got a sixth on the way. I say to everybody, there's room for everybody because people keep saying, how am I going to get noticed? There's gazillions of books out there. What do you say to people who say, there's too many books out there, it's too hard?
I mean, I would say you're right. There are too many books out there. It's hard for even
Mm.
the biggest deal author in the world to
Established
find their
authors, right?
following.
Mhm.
Established authors, it's hard, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should do things that are hard. That's okay. And why are you doing it? Most people don't decide to write a book because they need 20,236 downloads. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right,
you do it
right.
because you have a story to tell. And it's this one way to achieve some sort of immortality, if you will, and to give people who love you something to leave behind and to make people feel and think. And whether you're doing that for 5 people or 100 people or 1 million people, you're doing the same thing. And ultimately, how many people who read it is not up to you necessarily. It's whether people find it something that they're relating to. So all you can do is put your best work out there. And if you don't, there's probably someone out there who could have heard your story and had it change their lives. And by not sharing your own story, you're kind of depriving that other person.
No, I'm seeing an uptick in books and movies that take place in the 60s and 70s, somewhat catering to an older crowd. And of course, this definitely speaks to the Gen X, the boomers, the Generation Jones. What do you attribute the recent openness to open authors and stories of older people and nostalgia?
I mean, I think a lot of people who have time to read are slightly older, and there are a lot of empty nesters or people who are more established in their careers and can take the time off and aren't in the office 24/7 necessarily. So I think it's a big target audience, and I think people are wisening up to that. I've seen a big uptick in books featuring menopausal
Yeah.
characters,
Hmm.
postmenopausal characters, perimenopausal characters. We
Hmm.
just acquired one, which we'll be announcing soon. So, and I'm writing one, another one. I wrote one already. So, I think this is people want to see themselves in fiction.
Right.
People, if it's not there, they create it. And I think whether you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, I mean, my grandmothers didn't stop reading. They passed away in their 90s. They were reading till the last minute. Every time we talked, what are you reading? So, you know, not everybody needs a story about a 20-year-old coming of age. Like many of us have come of age. But now what do we do with that? So I think it's great to have characters of all different ages. And I think older people deserve to be marketed to more. I mean, not that they necessarily want that, but, I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yes, 100%. That's there's more of older people than there are younger people. And I think it's by 2030, 60, there'll be more people over 65 than 18. So
Wow.
it's really emerging. And what is your favorite genre?
I love memoir. I have to say, memoir is my favorite. I love fiction too, but if given the choice, I would read 10 memoirs over 10 novels.
Okay.
I am really curious about people, fascinated by people's stories. I was thinking this as I did my last podcast. I was like, how long am I going to do this? Because I love it just as much now as I did before, but here I am sitting in the same seat. I don't get tired of it. I don't get tired of hearing people's stories. So, yeah, memoir, I think, is my favorite. And to answer your earlier question about if I feel a sense of urgency to get everything done by a
Yeah.
certain age, which I forgot to answer, no, I don't feel like there's a number that I'm trying to do this by. I will say I always feel like I'm fighting an hourglass that like time is ticking. I've had a lot of loss in my life and have had since a younger age, and I get it. Like I'm fully aware that I every day is kind of like borrowed time and I have to make the most of it. And so I just go, 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 go. You just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so I feel like that has fueled me, but I've also just always operated this way where I like kind of get focused on something and then I keep going. So yes and no.
So in your publishing company and in your bookstore, do you tend to favor women employees? Do you look for that? Do you have a specific sort of something you're looking for in people, empowering people, or you just get the best person for the job, which is
We get
really
the
the right thing to do, but
we get the best person for the job. We put the jobs out there. Um, Most people who apply for the jobs that we post about are women. Um, we have male employees. We have a male author coming up. I believe in giving women a fair shot of,
Mhm.
of the floor. I feel like there should be a space dedicated to women's stories, but this is not only that. And yeah, we are not trying to exclude anybody. I mean,
Right.
we work with men all the time, so
Because I know that some of these groups that are coming out, writing groups, I'm seeing very, very specific for women, reaching out to women, especially women over 50. There's a lot of that
mm,
brewing right now, to get people out there because, like you, I love hearing people's stories, and when they're true, it's, your jaw drops. You can't believe
yes,
some of the things
yeah.
that have happened to people. And I think I think the savvy readers understand that, but sometimes people pick up a book and say, that would never happen in real life. That's ridiculous. But it
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
it's astounding because we're in a place now that everybody bears all, everybody talks to each other about everything, everybody posts everything. 20 years ago, people were not sharing that kind of information with friends and family, never mind online. So it's become it's a whole nother ball game that we're dealing with. I really, so you are also the creator of, this community of book lovers. You have retreats, classes, book clubs. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yes. So we kind of call it Zibby Readers at this point. Zibby Readers, Zibby Writers. We have classes, online classes. We have a writing group that meets every Monday with some featured speakers. We have book club that meets once a month that I host. We also have events and retreats in different places. So quarterly, we host retreats for about 60 women, not women. See, there we go.
Oh, yep.
Uh,
Okay.
that we've
Men are
had men,
welcome. Okay.
but men are welcome. We have had men. In fact, every retreat, I think there's been a man or two.
Okay.
Um, but we do that every quarter at different places. They're for readers, not a writer's retreat. Readers,
Oh,
writers do come,
interesting.
but they're
Okay.
readers. So they're people who just love books, that want to talk about books, and or don't want to talk about books, but love books and want to talk about, aging or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot of fun. We go to bookstores and we have great panels where we talk about life, and they end up being inspiring and kind of fun weekends. And we do day-long events. So we just had one in Chicago and we had one in New York, and we have more of those coming up as well. And then have lots of events related to the books that we publish. So we try to host launch events for all of those, and then all of our authors are out on tour, and we try to make those events fun. And then at the bookstore, we're always hosting events there. So those are mostly free, 3 to 5 times a week, and we bring in fabulous authors. So I believe in gathering. I host events here in New York myself, and like having an event tomorrow. So I just love gathering people and talking about books. I think it's really fun. So, and it helps.
I think it's important also post-pandemic to get people back out again. It
Mhm.
really was such a huge shift it probably, people were reading more because they were home, but people were conversing and, socializing less. My book club is back up and it's so nice. Everybody comes and we just go sit on my friend's couch, and there's about 12 of us. I belong
That's
to
so
two book
nice.
clubs. I have one online and one with some childhood friends. So we talk about books that
Oh,
take place in the 60s and 70s. So it's really, really fun. And, Zibby, this is great. For more information, you can go to Zibby Media, just like it sounds, ZIBBYMEDIA.com for all the events, books coming out, book clubs, reading groups, etc. So, Zibby, what do you like about getting older?
oh, what a good question. What do I like about getting older? Um, what do I like? This is stumping me. I mean, I like a lot of things. My first instinct was to say I like caring a little bit less about every little thing, right? I don't sweat the small stuff as much. Um, I like, yeah, just kind of doing more what I want, not worrying about what people think as much. I just feel like a lot more calm and centered. And, I know who I love and who loves me, and I'm okay with that. I
Mhm,
love that.
mhm,
And
mhm.
um, getting older, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate the wisdom that comes with getting older, and I think it helps us all write better the older we get, the perspective we get from that. So I don't know. I guess, and also the fact that so many years have gone by and I've been able to make so many friends and relationships, and that's been, exponential growth of that as I've aged. So that's been wonderful too.
And that old saying is like, well, I can't do that by the time I, finish or publish a book or finish my school, I'll be 50. It's, well, you're going to turn 50 anyway, or you're going to
Yeah,
turn 60 anyway. You might as well do what you love, right? Throw
totally.
caution to the wind and just enjoy it. And
What do you like about aging?
what I love about aging is that those very things. A, I don't care what anybody thinks. B, I have totally come into my own. Growing up, I never in a million years thought I would be doing any of the things I did. Never mind, have written 5 books. I ran 20 marathons.
Oh my
I never
gosh.
thought that I would, in 113 halves. I never thought I'd live in LA. I've been here almost 30 years. Um, I I love the way I feel and I look at my age. In other words, I do work at it, but okay, so my lips are a little, there's some wrinkle lines on my lips, and I'm not as toned as I used to be, and all that. You know what? Nobody's judging me. It's not prohibiting me from living my life.
Hmm.
And the other thing is the friendships. You mentioned the friendships that you develop over the years. You really, really find out and fine tune and hone relationships with people. And you really know who you want to have in your life and who you don't. And the reality is, I have the right to say no. I never thought I had the right to say no, right? Oh, you had to do this or you had to do that and show up and this and that. And now it's like, no, it doesn't work for me. And that's
Hmm.
incredibly, for me, I'm 63, and it was very empowering to turn 60. I loved turning 60. I loved going around telling everybody that. I know people want to hide their age and lie about their age. And one of the things I write about is that the only person you're hurting or trying to kid when you lie about your age is yourself. Is embracing it. You maybe don't want to scream it from the rooftop, but it's important to acknowledge it and to accept it, because then you know what you need to do,
Hmm.
instead of pretending that you're not. And I also, I really, in talking to you and all these people who do wonderful things over 40, over 50, over 60, I am so thrilled that I have the opportunity to come in contact. Like you say, I have the laptop, I bought my lighting. I'm home and I can do what I love, and I can
Yep.
I can also go out and do what I love. So, and it's not even a coat of armor. It's just you don't need to fight back anymore when you get older. You're just like, you know what? Okay, that didn't work. On to the next. What we call a fast fail. Not happening.
I
Let's move on. Yeah, yeah.
like that.
So, Zibby, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's lovely to meet you. And I will be at the
Yes.
Santa Monica bookstore because my daughter is now in New York, so I have a little more time. And I want to thank all of you for listening to our show, for engaging discussions on aging well. And for more information, you can reach out to me at www.patriciagreenberg.com. And Zibby will put your link up there as well when the show airs. So you have a wonderful day. Lovely to see you, and good luck with all of your upcoming adventures.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having
You're
me.
welcome.